Yeah, the champions page up then. If this video comes out as like an angry rant, I apologize for this. It's just simply that this is an annoying subject. Fernando right now is being called basically the emoji of tanks. That he is the absolute worst tank to throw pick. Now, anytime someone gets grouped up with Moji, who's one of the strongest characters in the game, yet everyone shits on him because they don't understand how they work, I get involved because A, no one belongs in the same category as Moji. She is her own unique individual snowflake and does not deserve any of the shit that is put on her. Shut up and go away if you hate on Moji. And B, Fernando is perfectly fine. In fact, he's stronger now than ever before. So I'm going to talk, I did a video before about Shut Up, I think it was called Shut Up J Flare, Fernando's fine. I want to have a little bit more of an in-depth discussion as to why they made the changes that they did on Fernando, because I saw why they did it, but nobody else seems to see that. And first thing we need to discuss, what did each tank lose for a legendary card? Now, Torvald doesn't make sense, where he lost his only tank card in alternating current. That was his only card for tanking. He pretty much got turned into a bubble shielder, where all that Torvald is good for is shielding allies, and off-meta choices to go for just nullifying everything in sight, but that's easily countered by resilience and crowd control effects. And yes, I know you can counter the shield build with Wrecker, but pretty much you can't really counter it without Wrecker, whereas you can counter Nullify with a Grok Totem. You can counter Nullify with Anara's Mother's Grace, with Emoji Magic Barrier. So, he doesn't make sense. However, you have Makoa, who lost Davy Jones' Locker. He, again, doesn't fit this mentality that I'm going for, because Davy Jones' Locker were just shit. You can't bully people with Davy Jones' Locker. If he lost something like Pluck, that would be a different story. However, look at the rest of your tanks for the most part. What did they lose? They lost bully potential. Ruckus lost Overdrive, which, to be fair, was a shit perk, but he lost the ability to bully people at low health. So, I have to take that in consideration as well. Terminus lost Seething Rage, which meant that he lost the ability to bully at close range. Pretty much now he has Decimation or Crush if you want to play more of a bully tank. I personally run Undying because I hate his other cards. Khan lost Firing Line. Now, you could make the argument that Firing Line is a defensive ability, but in my opinion, I would disagree. I personally think he has Vortex Grip and Leon's Shield if you want to go defense. Vortex Grip to give you more crowd control, to stun someone longer, to finish them off easier if you're low health. Leon's Shield, obviously, for defensive. I personally think that Firing Line was a bully tank mentality because of the damage buff it gave you. Anara lost Wrath of Stigala, and again, that's not really a bully tank, but it's a bonus damage ability, and that's what I'm going for. Fernando didn't really lose the bully tank card. He lost the sniper card in Dragonfire Lance, but we're going to talk about him in greater detail, so just go with me on that. And then the other two tanks, you lost Barrack lost Hair Trigger, which was a huge bully card for him. Barrack on Hair Trigger with Nimble and a good Rocket Boots build, yeah, say that 3 times real fast, could just get up in your face and constantly apply high DPS rate of fire on you. You know, he's dealing close to 2 shots per second that deal 500 damage, so he's just short of 1,000 DPS. For a tank character, that's pretty good. So, he lost that ability. And then Ashe lost Rally Here. Now, Rally Here is not really a bully card, so to speak, because it buffs her ult, but you could use her ult on Rally Here to bully. You could use it for the stun and the knockback, and then go to town on them, which is what a lot of Ashes are doing now that it has the stun on it. It doesn't have the knockback anymore, but it has the stun still. And with them making it base kit, she did kind of gain that. Now, for this, I want to mention the fact that we are going to be completely ignoring for the rest of the discussion Torvald and Ruckus, because they are not bully tanks. They are not tanks that you use to push up and bully the enemy team. Now, yes, you can use Ruckus for that, but Ruckus doesn't have the ability to defend himself. Ruckus's only ability is a short-term shield that's pretty easy to shoot through, or just outgunning people. So we're ignoring them for right now. We're going to talk mainly about Makoa, Fernando, Terminus, Khan, Ash, and to a lesser extent, Inara and Barrack. What were the changes that they did to Fernando? By the way, I need to put my outfit on because it just looks weird to me. Sorry. What did they do to Fernando? Okay. The base legendary card. Let's start with that. They reduced the straight bonus damage that it received. Fernando used to deal more damage on his fireball, which would be 540 damage as opposed to 450, which is a 30% increase, and subsequent targets hit by the same fireball took an increase of 30% more damage. They changed that to where fireball no longer deals bonus damage, so it deals 450 damage per fireball, but subsequent targets take 45% more damage. Now, first off, there is the community of people that are upset at this change because they lost an extra 90 fucking damage on an ability that can have a cooldown as low as 3 seconds. If you are arguing over a fucking 90 damage, piss off. I don't give a shit about, oh, he lost damage, he lost so much damage. He lost 90 damage to fireball. And the funny part is Scorch deals more damage now by hitting subsequent targets. For example, originally your fireball dealt 450 damage, it would deal 540 damage, and then it would stack up to 750, I think it was like 750, 920, 1100, and 1800. Now your fireball stacks at 450, which is a nerf, 650, which is a nerf, 950, which is a slight buff. I think it's like 1300 is the next one, which is another buff, and then close to 2000. It stacks. If you hit a third target, you're actually buffing your damage output. The fact of the matter is, Fernando does deal more damage on his fireball if you are focusing on lining up a lot of shots. And that's the thing I want to mention. Most people in high-level play have been playing tanks as aggressive flank characters. Everyone heard Flank Nendo and Flank Koa. Why are they so annoying? Ash is the playground bully because everyone plays her as a backline threat. They don't really play her for point, and if your front line is the type of character that sits on the point, all of the quote-unquote high-level PC players, all your grandmasters and that, they sit there and they shit on you and they say, oh my god, you don't know how to play tanks, they're supposed to push up and engage. And I do get that sentiment. If it works, if you are dealing with a team that is very much based around controlling an area, Inara, for example, is not a push tank. Inara is not a push tank. Inara is not a tank that pushes up and goes and meets the enemy team and says, fuck you, I'm going to kill you. She holds the point. Khan is an example of a push tank. Khan goes up and says, I'm going to come and kill you. Now, why did they take away a lot of the nerf on some of these other characters? We're going to talk about the other characters. Well, on Terminus, they took away Seething Rage because they want him to play more point. Terminus is pretty much just an off-point character the entire time. There are very few Terminuses that will sit on the point and hold point. And that becomes very annoying if they are your only tank option. Problem. Terminus doesn't play point in a situation where he needs to, the team loses. So Terminus had to lose some of his mentality of that. They didn't want to get rid of Crush because Crush and Decimation are his two most played cards. So they got rid of Seething Rage, which I'm unhappy with. That's pretty much the only other card I played besides Undying. But I understand why they did it. And if you look at the cards that he has in his loadout now, the ones that they changed, they offer a lot more support for a more tank-based character. You have cards that generate your Power Siphon and your Calamity Blast a lot more, with It Watches, Forsaken, Strength of Stone, and Abomination all helping with that regard. And then you have It Follows, which does help his flank potential still. So they did not completely destroy Terminus, they just reworked him to be slightly more tanky. Another example is Makoa. Makoa lost Davy, really didn't get anything changed. He lost Davy Jones' Locker, which was a Mimi pick, and he had his CC card turned into a health card. That is all that happened to Makoa. He is still a flank tank, but he has very good tank potential with Leviathan and shielding builds. Anara lost Wrath of Sagala, which meant she kind of lost her ability to be that push tank. So you're running Treacherous Ground, which is, to be honest, quite frankly, it's better on that. However, they did fix that mistake by giving her an extra ammo card. So she can bully now with more ammo, and because of that, she has different cards where she can generate ammo by activating an ability. It enables Anara to be in a very aggressive front line, pushing with a high ammo. Barrack is in a similar boat. Now, Barrack got us change of pace. He lost his crowd control card, and it became a health card, which is a much-needed thing that allows Barrack to actually play as a point tank. They did take away his push potential, but you can still use Tinkering as kind of like a close-range shotgun instead of the long-range shotgun that it currently is. So, I don't necessarily mind that. Khan did lose Firing Line, which basically removed a perk that was a bit overpowering. I mean, there's no other... If there was Firing Line in the game, there was no other reason to pick it. But now you have Storm of Bullets if you want to be an aggressive push tank, Vortex Grab if you want to do a 2v1 scenario with a flank damage, and Leon Shield if you want to be defensive. He also didn't have any card changes done, which is a great thing because Khan does have a very diverse set of cards. Ashe is another interesting one to talk about. She's the last tank before we talk about Fernando. Again, no changes except to having Rally here kind of merged into her ult, but her loadout cards changed significantly. She now has two key cards. One is an increased ammo count, which does allow her to bully more, and she has a sustain card that gives her up to 50% life rip. Now, Ashe deals low DPS, which is why she's a turnoff for a lot of people, myself included, but she is able to effectively bully because of the fact that she can push so aggressively with her sustain and damage reduction abilities and go after lower health characters. Now, Fernando received quite an overhaul to his cards. First off, he lost his crowd control card, which became a healing card. We're not really going to talk about that. That doesn't matter. What matters are the two changes to these cards right here, Brand and Hot Pursuit. Now, everyone says that Brand was an initial nerf to him because he's the only tank that lost a an anti-cauterize or an anti-heal card. So he automatically suffered that nerf. However, one of the biggest problems that people have on Fernando was that he didn't have enough sustain. Fernando was very much reliant upon his healer or kill to heal in order to heal himself. And being a tank, he had to have high levels of kill to heal in order to accommodate him because he was going to take more damage by having a higher hitbox. Brand enables you to heal yourself. You have up to a 3-second cooldown that can heal you for up to 500 health. This means that every 9 seconds you can get 1500 in healing. And Brand does stack on multiple enemies, which means one well-placed fireball can heal you for up to half your health, if not more than half your health. If you hit all 5 enemies in a row with Scorch, not only are they going to die, is someone probably going to die, but you're going to heal yourself for 2500. So it's an amazing sustain option for him, especially if you don't have a strong enough healer, or if you need a consistent way to heal yourself. If you're planning on running Incinerated 3, or at anything higher than 3, Brand goes well with that. The real problem is Hot Pursuit. Hot Pursuit lost the movement speed that fireballs give you, in exchange for making your fireball faster. I will be fair that the card itself is shit. I don't like what the card became. However, I do like that Fernando lost that. And a lot of people say, oh, it's so shit, oh my god. They're trying to use running start for that movement speed after charge. Fernando doesn't have closing distance, doesn't have closing speed on his flamethrower. But if he did, it would make him overpowered. You have to realize that Fernando has a damage over time effect that is basically cauterize. His flamethrower deals automatic cauterize with its damage over time effect. So naturally, Fernando has natural built-in cauterize into his weapon, and he has a high DPS. Now, 350 damage per second does not sound like a lot, but remember that it deals 200 damage over 2 seconds. On top of that, that means even if enemies leave fire, they're taking about 100 damage per second while they're in the fire bonus and after they leave it. This means that he technically has 450 DPS while in the beam and an additional 100 DPS out of it with built-in cauterize. And he has a fireball that deals a lot of damage to subsequent targets. And the other problem is no one plays Aegis or Formidable in high-level play. They all play Scorch, and they all play Fernando as a bully. This means that now, where Fernando's Scorch is considered weaker and people are trying to find other options, rather than playing Fernando, which is an incredibly defensive tank to begin with, his shield is a big shield. It denies a lot of damage and forces the enemy team to buy Wrecker to deal with it. He has an ult that keeps his team from dying for 4 seconds. This is an incredibly defensive character, but everyone plays him as an aggro offensive character. Now, why would they make this big nerf to the flank tanks? Because it also ends the burst meta. See, everyone wants to talk about damages and flanks with their burst damage being the big complaint. But at the end of the day, it's not. The burst meta can work like this, and this is how it plays out in-game right now. The burst meta used to be, as an example, Leon with Death and Taxes applies entire team wipe cauterize, so she's able to combo all of her abilities very quickly with the enemy team being unable to heal. Or, another example is Strix. Strix is able to combo unauthorized use for a quick flare with a rifle shot and kill someone. Well, that's still in the game. Cassie is able to combo her blast shot with a just breeze sniper shot and deal a lot of damage, even though she can still kind of do that with impulse and regular fire. The burst meta hasn't gone away. Now, they thought that the burst meta would go away by reducing cauterize and wrecker that was in loadouts and legendaries, and boy were they wrong. This is one thing that I do want to mention. There's still burst meta because of stuff like this. Tyra and Makoa are running together. Makoa hooks a target, hits them with a regular shot. Tyra hits them with a grenade. Instantly, the target has a 1350 damage reduction on them. That is burst meta. If Makoa goes shot, hook, shot with a Tyra grenade, well, now they've taken an additional 650 damage, which you're looking at about 2000 damage at that point. Therefore, burst meta still exists. Why they nerfed Fernando is because Fernando is one of the biggest culprits. Fernando is another problem with Fernando as well is that the old Hot Pursuit gave him bonus movement speed for 2 seconds on an ability that could have a 3-second cooldown. What this means is that Fernando could perpetually have this high 50% movement speed as long as he just hit a fireball. All he has to do is hit a fireball and he has 50% movement speed. It's very similar to Lex. Lex is a champion that has a build, here we go, where he gets 50% movement speed when Combat Slide ends, which Combat Slide has a 3-second cooldown, and this ability lasts for 2 seconds. It's a very important thing to note because of the fact, if I were to take Juke Boots off and put on Wicked Don't Rest, every shot that I deal could reduce the cooldown by 25%, which means I would only have to hit 4 shots, and I could completely reset my cooldown. Now, this allows Lex to constantly slide around the map and be very hard to hit. However, there's a trade-off to this. A, Lex has a relatively low DPS. I say relatively low. It's low amongst the flank characters, but that's for a separate video. And B, he has half the health that Fernando does. Why is this a problem, though? Well, because Fernando has double the fucking health that Lex does. He is not meant to have that type of mobility and movement speed. If Fernando is able to generate 50% movement speed every 2 seconds off an ability with a 3-second cooldown, there is no incentive for Fernando to buy Nimble, which makes that item completely redundant on him. And Hi-Rez wants you, based on how they opened up the item shop, to run multiple items. If you want to play a flank tank, you need to buy Nimble with them. And that's something that they need to know, that they really worked on. So the reason why, if you're wondering why Fernando lost his bonus damage on Scorch and his things, all these loadout card changes with Hot Pursuit and Brand, is because they want him to play more on point. Fernando is one of the original tanks in the game. He's up there with Makoa and Barrack. And Fernando is a very strong tank. As a tank, he is an unmovable object on tank. But the problem with that is no one ever plays him that way. They want to play him as an aggressive bully. And you have cunts like J-Flare that want to sit there and say that he needs to get reverted, when what Hi-Rez is doing is saying, this is how we want this character played. And this is not the first time they've done that, as you can very well see. There are a number of other characters that have been changed. For example, Talus was changed because they did not want him being played as this high knockback character. Talus used to have insane knockback on both his ult and his punch because of the fact that it was one of the more effective ways to guarantee damage, was to just simply knock a character off the edge. Well, by changing that, I actually rather like that. I like the fact that they changed it and made it. At the time, I didn't, but I didn't understand why they made the change. After Talus had that change, I understood. They wanted him to be able to follow up multiple abilities in a row and not just be a one-trick pony with his knockback being an easy way to get kills. They wanted you to work for it. In the same vein that Skye got a rework. They want Skye to be more of a team focused on the point flank. They want her to be more of a tank killer, more of a support, using her poison bolts to kill tanks, using smoke and dagger to heal allies and support her team. The change from damage to healing is because smoke and dagger afforded her too much damage and because there were too many reset abilities. Skye could 1v5 the enemy team by herself with her combination of poison bolts, primary fire, and her smoke bomb. And yes, that's what it was called. We called it the smoke grenade. And all of these things allowed each other to reset. The rework to making her into more of a healing-based character puts her more in line with Moji as being a tank and point-oriented flank rather than an isolationist in the enemy backline. And both of these characters are now considered to be weak on these build types because of the fact that they are a point-based flank. So, hopefully this addresses people bitching about Fernando. I know no one's probably going to watch this video, so no one's going to listen to me. But at the end of the day, the Fernando nerf is good for paladins. And for people that sit there and say that, well, Fernando is just such shit. Do I have a Fernando game on here? I don't think I do. No, wait. This, Fernando game, this is not a good representation right here. Because I think this was a Stone Keep. We just couldn't get past the Koga on their team. I don't think I have it. Hold on. Here we go. This is the Onslaught game. This is another example of what I'm talking about. This was an Onslaught game right here. I have top damage on my team playing aggressively. We had 2 tanks set up so I didn't have to. The reason why we lost this match is eventually the Barrack just started throwing. Like, the Barrack just would run away from me instead of pushing with me. And spent the whole game spamming need healing. Nah, I don't have any more. That being said, Fernando is still capable of a lot of damage on Scorch, so don't believe everything you hear on the internet.